Good morning, Janet. Welcome to the Magnificent Mamas Thrive Show. I'm so happy to have you here today. I know we had some
Oh,
great conversations when I got to be on your show,
yeah.
and we
And
couldn't
this is
stop it.
great.
So
Yeah.
let's keep going with those
Yeah.
conversations. So tell us about you. Tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and all the great gems that you have to deliver us today on the Thrive Show.
Great. Well, how long have you got? um, so I'm Janet Jones. I was previously known as the Happiness Millionaire. And so I had a global business it was in personal development, helping people find a happier space in life. And I'd come from a dark place myself and learned specific techniques. You know, you can go Google Happiness Millionaire. But on July the 14th, 2019, I was set the biggest challenge of all. And the Happiness Millionaire was faced with the darkest times. And that was when I lost my son Murray. He was 22 years old and he died in a climbing accident in Edinburgh, in Scotland. So I went to bed on the 13th of July. My daughter and I had watched the finals at tennis, Djokovic and Federer, and obviously Djokovic won again. And I just tucked up in bed. I'd sent my son a text message saying, "Hi, sunshine. Did you watch the tennis today?" Because we're all tennis fans. And I didn't get a reply. And I almost rang him. And I just thought, oh, it's late. And so I didn't call. But he wouldn't have taken my call anyway because of what he was doing. He was still alive at that time. And then I just written my gratitude journal, a habit that I have always done, and turned my light out. And then my phone rang, and it was my other son, and just saying, "Oh, Mum, Murray's been in a climbing accident, but we don't know anything." And I think I knew at that point, because by then it was about sort of 10:15, and I think I just knew. And everyone I speak to say they knew when tragedy hit, they knew. And so then it was obviously a sleepless night. And eventually we all gather as a family in Edinburgh, because I live in Yorkshire in England. And I can remember sitting in my ex-husband's back garden, and and I just thought, this is the biggest challenge of all for the Happiness Millionaire. And my son loved me being the Happiness Millionaire. He used to say, "Mum, you need to do more of this. You know, people really need to hear this." And I've written a book. My book is Happiness Millionaire: Positive Images for a Rich and Powerful Life. And it's available on Amazon. Little book plug.
Love it.
And I'm sure there'll be another book to come in time.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm on my journey back to that happiness millionaire state, and I believe I can get there.
Well, it's interesting. You know, again with the metaphor of your son climbing, and I think even being the happiness millionaire, you arrived to that place. And sometimes we arrive in life and we think it's going to stay like this forever,
Yeah,
and then we get knocked off that mountain. And
yeah,
it sounds like you kind of got knocked off that mountain, and
yeah.
it's your journey to climb back up, but maybe notice different things, notice life a little bit differently. And so
And
now you
yeah,
started the good grief conversation.
and then I created the Good Grief Conversation, which has been a real healing place for me. And I believe it's been a healing place for many other people too. I bring great guests on, such as yourself, so that we can share wisdom and insight to help people at those dark times. And, you know, how do you get from the dark space back on that mountain, back to a happier place in many ways? You know, like you just said, is that, you know, climbing back up, but it's a different climb. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm currently reviewing moving. So my house is up for sale, and but I'm reviewing moving away from this area. and I was with a friend. We were up in Scotland. I've got some friends who just moved up there to the coast, and it's beautiful. And I stood looking out to sea, and I thought, I can't have the life that I thought I was going to have, but I can create a new one. And that's
Absolutely.
where I'm at,
Mhm.
creating the new one, you know?
Right. And it
Yeah.
seems like it's a step-by-step process. It's not like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I have this vision of, I think that it's a deciding factor of setting the intention of how you want to feel, which
Mm.
I always say we have to understand how we want to feel first in order to attract or become the person we want to be. But you're seeking a different life or creation. So, what does that look like for you? What is the creation of this life becoming?
For me, it looks peaceful and joyful without pressure. Before my son passed away, and I always say he passed away rather than died. Some people say, oh, but you should really say died, because to say passed away means you're in denial.
Hmm.
Now, as now a grief expert, I would disagree with that, because I believe that my son has just passed to another space. He's passed to the spirit space. Um, it's his body that's died. He hasn't died,
Right.
and when I move, because for a while I thought, moving from the family home, and this is the space where Murray occupied, and I felt very attached to
Mm.
here, until I realized that my son isn't here. My
Right.
son is in my heart, and in my other children's hearts, and all his friends' hearts. My son still exists. As long as we live, he lives. And so then I just thought, well, I'm going to take my son on an adventure. I'm going to live an adventurous life. So,
I
yes,
love
it's
it.
joyful, peaceful, but yes, it's adventurous.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
funny. It's really interesting that you brought that up. And I want to pause there for a second because I have a friend who I just saw on Sunday. Um, she also had gone through loss. She lost a child, and then 3 years later, her husband passed away.
Mhm.
And then she decided it was time to pack up the family home and move on and build another home. And she kept saying to me, I'm not, and this is one of my friend's mothers. So she's at an age where she's ready to move on,
Yeah.
but she thought it was going to be with her husband. And I said, okay. So she kept making all these excuses of why she wasn't selling the house,
Yeah.
and it was a railroad, or they needed to redo this or that or the other thing. And I said to her, I'm like, you know what, I think we need to really do a little cleanse. And
Mm.
I had her write a spirit letter to both her daughter and her past husband, and said to them, you guys are coming with. We're not leaving. I'm
Yes.
not leaving you behind in this space. You're coming with me to the new space. And once she did that, and I also had her write down the date that she was going to get an offer on the house.
Oh,
And
great. I'll do that.
yes,
Yeah, I'll do
so
that.
she did it all, and she thanked the home. She visualized who she saw in the home.
Great.
And so she was trading the energy from what she had and who still belonged there with her, and let them all know that they're coming with her. And then this new family was going to transition in
Great.
spirit into this home. And
Mm.
sure enough, when she got the offer on the house, she was like, Elizabeth, I cannot believe this happened.
Right.
But again,
Yeah.
no coincidence. But
Yeah.
again, I think sometimes it's about realizing that their spirit is with you, and then it
Absolutely.
doesn't feel
Mm.
so heavy.
No.
It doesn't feel so final. It
Mm.
actually is a beautiful space. And I know I've done it. I shared with you my epiphany of change in life, of all of the loss I had in that 1 year, which enlightened me for forever,
Yes.
5 deaths from January to May. And it
Yeah.
just made me realize that we can go on very heavy without these people, or we can continue on with spirit and spunk and spice with them in our
Yeah.
lives. And
Yeah.
it's our choice, you know.
I couldn't agree more. And, look, when you're in the dark space, you you don't feel that you do have a choice. Life is crushing you. It's hard, it's heavy, it's all of that. And to anyone who is listening, who's at the early stages of any grief, whether it is a marriage that's broken up or, right up to losing a child, those early stages are dark. And don't deny that, accept that. But the light will come. Now, I didn't believe that even when that happened to me. So I'm just over a year. This time last year, I didn't think I'd be sat here. I honestly didn't, um, because it is dark. But now, looking back, I would say, honor the darkness and sit with it for a while. Just don't sit with it forever.
Absolutely.
That, I think that's your choice, is to acknowledge, I'm going to choose to sit with it now, but I'm not going to sit with it forever. You will find your way to the light.
Right, right. That's very profound. And I also feel like, it's an honor. It's an honor to know and have had that person in our life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you have that pain in your being, in your heart, it's honoring the love that you had for that special person. Or maybe
Yeah.
sometimes it's the things that you didn't really say, or that you didn't connect with, or that you
Mm-hmm.
didn't apologize for, or but it's still honoring where you
Yeah.
are in the pain process.
It is. And also, you can still do that because remember, they haven't died, they've passed.
Right.
And so, people say, oh, I should have said that before. What, so that you could see a look on their face, or, why? You can still do that now. I write to my son all the time, I talk to him all the time, because he's here,
Yeah. Oh,
you
I
know.
totally agree with that. I had a client many years ago. She was stuck in her business and she couldn't get to a certain level in her business. And she had so much anger for her father.
Mm,
And he had already passed away years prior, but she always referred to him by his first name. She referred to him to the kids, her children and his grandchildren referred to him by the first name. And it was out of anger and spite. And I said, how about we do this? How about you write a letter
mm,
and just connect with him? And she's like, I don't like him. I even hate him. And I said, how about, do you like him for the life that he created?
for
You are
you.
that life, right?
Mm,
So to have the love and appreciation for that
mm,
person because he created you.
yeah.
And so finally she wrote a letter and she told me, she's like, Elizabeth, I screamed at him.
Yeah.
I went to the
Yeah.
park and I just yelled and screamed and I got it all out.
Mm,
And to fast forward, she ended up having his name tattooed on her foot. So
right.
whenever she looked down, she realized he was a part of her. She
Yeah.
was a part of him. And lo and behold, of course, her business thrives and it continues to thrive today. But
Yeah.
sometimes we have to just let go of that anger. And
Mm.
I think even in grieving, we hold on to anger.
We do. And also people hold on to grief. Part of many groups like parent loss, child loss, etc. And the number of times I hear people saying, I will never let go of my grief because that's all I've got. And I just think, no, but you can transform the grief, and there's another line that people use, that has gone out of my head now, but something about the grief is love with nowhere to go. And I think, gosh, that is such a closed statement, because first of all, love always has somewhere to go.
Mhm.
And what you can do is take the grief. If that is love with no place to go, you can take that love and you can spread it places. And that's what I aim to do with the good grief conversation, is to go, look, this has happened to me, and I've been caught up in the grieving. But if grief is love, then I've got bucket loads of love, because I got bucket loads of grief. so
Right.
so yeah, so I've even more to give, and also I feel that the love from my son is now completely infinite. It's been let free, and so I feel that energy. In fact, in the mornings I've started doing qigong, and one of the positions that I do is called parting the clouds. But what I call parting the grief, and you basically just very gently with your hands moving the clouds or the grief away from you. And when I started it, as I was doing this and visualizing parting it, the clouds felt like not a dark grey, that would have been in the early stages, but they felt like a mid-grey tone. I do it now, those clouds are white, and I'm parting them. The white is part of the grief. And then as I part it and I move it away with my hands to either side of me, then the idea is that you then allow the love to come in as a golden light. And I envisage that's my son's love coming in for me.
I love
So,
it.
he's now helping me. And I find that so powerful and so healing. It's been amazing.
It's
Amazing.
beautiful. It is amazing. And I think that that's the whole point of life. I've been a soul seeker since I was a child.
Yeah.
And I used to always ask, like, what's the point? What's the point of life?
Yeah.
And I kept getting the tapping or the message of to live in love, to achieve the highest level of love after every day. And so
Yeah.
love for yourself, love for humanity, love for all of your people, love for Mother Earth, love for creatures, all the elements, and it just keeps going. And if we can just connect to why we're here, and we can let go of anger, and we can let go of fears, and we can let go of
Yeah.
all the things that are not serving us,
No.
and replace it with love, just like what you're
Yeah.
saying. It's just seeing that love with being a part of you, but also surrounding you. So powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's where choices then really come in. So as I was saying earlier, when the dark is there and it's real heavy, then you just choose there. I sit and I will come to the light. When you get closer to the light, that's where you have real choices. Do I fully step into the light? Do I keep one foot in the dark? Now, I would say where I am, I'm not fully in the light yet. There's part of me still in the dark. I don't want to remain in the dark. Again, I hear people going, it's that honors the loss, that the more you suffer, the more you loved. No,
No.
no. Why? Would your loved one want you to suffer? No. So that I feel is incorrect. But you must nurture yourself, and through self-love you take yourself into the light, and when you start to make different choices, you can get fully into the light. And my aim is to live more fully present in the light. Maybe I will always have a foot in the dark. Today I don't know the answer to that. I'll come back.
Right, right. And I think we ebb and flow. I think it also
Yes.
depends on what's going on in our external lives as well, that we could then start to feel sad again or go back into
Yeah.
that dark space. But
Yeah.
to know, and I feel like it's the resilience, it's the awareness, it's the know-how, and what you accomplished. One, especially being the happiness millionaire, you already had a foundation of self-talk and belief and connection. And then when you have the bathroom floor moment, which I call is like, let's not
Yeah.
leave that bathroom floor.
No.
You knew that there was going to come a time that you were tired of feeling cold on the bathroom floor, that you needed to rise up and you needed to find what was the key element to help you feel better than what you were feeling.
Yeah, I'd say I was beyond the bathroom floor though. Before I before I realized I needed to step up and that the power was within me. Before that, no, I was in the darkest of places I've ever been in my life. My dad in 1994 committed suicide. And let's just say I fully understood him. I
Mm-hmm.
fully understood how dad could have chosen to end his life because living was too painful. Um, and I was there. I was there several times. And I was there for a while. And during lockdown, actually, that lockdown was horrendous for me. I live on my own. No family could come see me. It was just horrendous. Then in many ways, it was also a bit of a blessing because I had to sit in my pain and my grief with nowhere to go. No, just nipping out to see a friend or go to the cinema, all those things where we do the avoidance tactics. They weren't on offer. But what it meant was I fell really, really, really low.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was very concerned. And in a phone call, she said to me, you know, Mum, I'm so worried. Will you promise not to do what Granddad did? So I made her a promise, and I would never, fail on that particular promise. And but I had to really crash. And I remember being on my kitchen floor, so my kitchen floor, not the bathroom floor, and I heard myself say to myself, you can continue with this, but there's only one place you're going, and it isn't pretty. Or you can start to get up and you can do all the things that you used to do as the happiness millionaire. And and I knew what I'd said to my daughter, and I thought, I have to get up. And I remember the physical getting up off the floor to go, okay, let me take the first step. And the first step in the principles that I teach as Happiness Millionaire is desire. And desire is not, a sexual desire or I desire a big house. A desire is actually a very emotional word that that is backed with, what do you want your life to be like? Like you just said right at the beginning, what does it feel like? What is it like? And I had to figure that one out, or at least start to think about it. I
Right.
hadn't thought about it until then. I was just paddling each day, and I hated each day. I couldn't wait to get back into bed so I could close my eyes on the day. But that moment was a change. That was when I said, right, I need to start this journey, and it's got to be beyond survival. I was doing the good grief conversation during this meltdown time. A couple of conversations I had to cancel because I didn't feel I was in the right space. Anyone who's listening to those early conversations, I'm very honest. If I've had a bad day, I will share that. I don't want people to think, oh, this journey is obviously an easy one. It isn't. Gosh, life journey isn't
Right.
that. When it throws you off the mountain, it's not easy climbing back up again.
No, no
Um,
matter how hard we train for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to pull out all the plugs and get everyone. But the other thing I would say though, so desire was the first bit. Like you say, I already knew about self-talk and all the rest of it. And I think that's why that voice then spoke to me and said,
Mhm.
you have two choices. It's not like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? It's like, you only have two choices.
Right.
And by then enough time had passed that I was conscious enough that I can make a choice. Previous to that, in fact, I just did a great interview with this girl, Ashley Jones, and she works in grief. She lost her baby a number of years ago, and great story, a great woman. And we were talking about grief, and she was saying that when you are very much in those early stages, the back part of the brain, the survival, the oldest part of the brain, kicks in, whereas the amygdala at the front, where we live consciously, completely shuts down. And so you're driven in just survival mode.
Hmm.
And I said, gosh, that explains so much. I remember going out walking because I knew I should keep walking. And it felt like my heart and my brain were dragging behind me, and I was just making the movements. And it felt like my brain was actually out of my body in a way. And then I remember the day that my brain caught up with my life situation. It
Wow.
felt like my brain just couldn't compute what had happened. And that's the truth. The brain can't compute what happens in trauma. And so you go into this survival mode, and then eventually the brain catches up. And when the brain catches up, that's when you make your choices. That's when you're coming back together. Your pieces are coming, and you get your choices. And then you can
Amazing.
make life how you want it. Make it as great as you possibly can.
And it is a journey, and it sounds like, I know you mentioned the word self-love before, and obviously in that darkness there was no love for yourself at that point.
Yeah,
But to catch up, your brain was catching up to say, I need to start taking care of myself, even for what you said, your daughter, because
yeah,
you made a commitment to stay here to be her mama,
yeah,
and there was another purpose. And although you couldn't really dig deep enough to find the self-love, but the self-love will come, but do it for somebody else, do it for the higher reasoning
mm,
of life, for whatever that looks like for you at that point. But
mm,
you had that reason to show up, to rise up
yeah.
from that kitchen floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And, self love is also going to bed. Self love is making sure you're getting enough sleep,
Right.
until your brain can catch up. Your brain needs sleep, and that allows your brain to catch up.
Yeah.
But
It's an honoring your soul. I know I say that to a lot of
yeah,
my clients. When you're so tired, especially after you've gone through a healing
mm,
um, type of ceremony or therapy, it needs time to just rest. It needs time to just heal.
yeah,
And as you know, I'm that woo-woo person who brings the crystals all around me, and I'm looking for support of any which way
mm,
I can get it, especially if it's not an active way of trying to heal. So if somebody is at that place where they're so sleepy that they can't even
yeah,
talk or think or do exercise, bring in the elements of oils or crystals, because that's easy to do, or the
mm,
angels and guides, and
yeah,
however that looks for you. But bring something, some energy into your being, so you
mm,
can get the strength, and where you heard the strength within you, you heard your higher self.
yeah, yeah.
So,
But before then, you sometimes you don't even have the energy to get the angels and the crystals, and sleep.
yeah.
Just sleep, because that is you building the strength, so that eventually the angels can come and talk to you.
Mm,
And Reiki, I would, when you're feeling exhausted, Reiki, I think, opens up energy gateways. It doesn't mean that you go leaping around suddenly, but
right.
they keep you alive. They keep you alive, and so that you can live again.
Right.
uh,
Right. I believe wholeheartedly. I'm a master
mm,
teacher and I love it. It's
yeah.
amazing. And again, it is looking to open your mind up to whatever comes your way to heal.
Mm,
There are so many offerings of
yeah.
healing, and
Yeah.
to not judge, but just be open into
Mm.
whoever can hold you at this point. And I think
Yeah.
even, yeah, at that place, looking for somebody to tell you that they love you,
Mm.
to be open to hearing the support, and however that word sounds like, or that feeling sounds like, that they love you, that your
Yeah.
life matters.
And for you to say that to yourself also.
Mm.
I I'm just nipping back to the Reiki bit though, because you understand that because you're a Reiki teacher.
Hmm.
I know nothing about Reiki. I do not understand Reiki. I have no interest to try and understand Reiki. All I know is for me, it works. And that's all I need to know. Because like you're saying, so it's finding those specific channels that are going to help you to heal and become stronger so that, emotionally and spiritually stronger so that you can go on and live. I also believe that sometimes you go chicken and egg. Is it physically or is it emotional and spiritually? I think if we build our strength emotionally and spiritually, we'll build our physical body. I
Absolutely.
think it goes that way round. I think we are soul and spirit first, and then we've to look after our body.
I teach that every day of my life. That is so
Yeah,
true. And when we get so frustrated with the physical not following up with our emotional,
yeah,
you're always going to be frustrated. You must
yeah.
address the
Mm.
emotional and the spirit body before you can touch the
The
physical.
physical body,
Yeah.
because they impact, they one impacts the other. I've put on over a stone in weight since Murray passed, and there are reasons for that, I know. And I even know at the time what I was doing. I was eating in order to punish myself, and I knew I was doing that. So I continued to do that. And then it got into comfort eating. I feel so sad, I will eat. And I was eating all the wrong things. I was just making myself sadder, because now I've got a stone in weight I need to lose as well.
Right.
But now that my soul and my emotions are rebalanced and healing, now I can address the weight issue. It's not, you know, and it had to come that way round. Me
Right.
addressing my body was not going to solve my heart and my soul. It just isn't going to happen that way. But
Right.
there are certain things you can eat that will then feed the soul. That actually, so there is a joint. Obviously, there everything is connected. So there are nicer things that I can eat that I will enjoy, and I will also heal my soul at the same time.
I love that. It's so, so true. Thank you for addressing that. And thank you so much for sharing your authentic story with us today. I feel like um, what we talked about really can hit home to so many of the mamas who have maybe lost a child or lost a loved one, or just even losing who we are, especially
Yeah,
after this pandemic. We've
yeah,
kind of lost track of who we are as an individual, and
yeah,
really tuning back into the soul being of who we want to be and who we're thriving to become, because we're all evolving and growing and transforming, and it never ever stops. I think it's just a part of our journey. So
yeah,
unfortunately we do go through pain points, but it's just that whole point of getting back up,
yeah.
and when we're down, knowing what to do and how to nurture ourselves back to life, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that within your group, there's going to be women out there who have lost, relationships and things. And there's masses of grief with that. I didn't realize how much I grieved my family breakup, and grieve the image that I had, that what I thought my family life would be like. I didn't know that I was grieving that. And it turns out I was, and I've done some healing around that as well, and changes everything, because the idea is that we want to keep moving through the pain points so that we can live more each time. I don't think, pain is part of life. We're all about how do I avoid pain? Well, you can avoid pain, but you won't necessarily truly live.
Right, right. And we are here to live, we are here
We
to
are here to
thrive, we're
live.
here to love.
Yeah.
and we're here to connect. So thank you so much for being on my
Thank you,
show
Elizabeth.
today. I so loved having our conversation. It
Yeah.
was so real
It
and
was
so raw,
Yes.
but so important for us to all be aware of. So
Yeah.
where can we find you? What is the best way where do you hang out? Where can we find you best?
Well, you can find me on Facebook at The Good Grief Conversation. That is The Good Grief Conversation. And you can go to thegoodgriefconversation.com, where you can find out more about the broadcasts that I do. You can just click the yellow Listen Now button. And we also do lots of podcast extras, as you know. I always ask my guests to leave gifts and for my listeners. So I now have this massive bank of gifts that are really, really helpful. And so I invite everyone to take a look at those as well. So the Good Grief Conversation is the best place.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely keep you in our show notes and put all of those links
Thank
there.
you.
And you'll be able to find our interview on the magnificentmamas.com /thrive show. So
Right.
it'll be in the
Do you want to say that again, Elizabeth? No.
No, we'll figure it back out, right?
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Great. Oh, thank you so much.